How you doing? Dom Tiberi, joined by Adam King. The first college football playoff ranking is out, and Oregon is number 1, Ohio State is number 2, Georgia's number 3. We can get in all the others, but the bottom line is Ohio State is where I thought they would be. I think it is interesting because ESPN, when they released it, they put the bracket, and if it was the end now, and Ohio State, although they were number 2, would not be able to get a first round bye because they would not be the champion. If it would end now, Oregon would be. So you got to hope Ohio State at least gets another crack at Oregon in the Big Ten title game, and I think they will beat them on a neutral field. I think they will definitely take care of business if they play again. But, you know, Ohio State could end up number 1 with the way this is rolling.
Yeah, I think it was definitely interesting to see the Buckeyes ranked over Georgia, because that tells me that if Ohio State runs the table, they get a win over Indiana, they would have a win over Oregon. I don't see any world where they aren't the number 1 overall seed at that point. It's also funny because we think back to the summer and the spring, Dom, and we always said Ohio State and Oregon were the 2 best teams. After everything that's happened this year, that's exactly where we sit. And I always thought it was wild when people said these 2 could play 3 times this year. Well, if things go the right way, they'll play certainly twice here. And right now, the playoff committee thinks these are the 2 best in America. Maybe we see them play for a 3rd time. But I thought it said a lot that they ranked them over Georgia. 2 Big Ten teams in the top 2, 3 in the top 6, and you get Indiana down there at 8.
Well, I thought Indiana might be a little bit higher. We'll see what happens. Obviously, that is a game that's coming up that worries me because that's a booby trap game. They, you know, that guy, he's like a cross between Earl Bruce and Urban Meyer. That dude is something else. Very confident. They're playing hard for him. So it'll be interesting to see when Ohio State has to play that club. And I keep telling everyone, you know, Michigan's having a terrible year, but it would make their year to beat Ohio State. And I've been doing this long enough, folks, that hopefully they don't overlook that team. Hopefully they go in there with revenge on their mind because they owe that club. And the one thing I've learned over the years is that the better team does not always win in that series. I go back to some of the years where Coop lost. I look at some of the games that Ryan Day lost to Michigan. I still think Ohio State was the better club. That club that should have beat Georgia, except that they got cheated, was better than Michigan. Was better than, and you know they were. And you know what? That was a cheap shot in the Georgia game. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for Georgia. I get fired up over that, and I will, because, you know, I look at what they're doing with college football and this targeting, whatever you want to call it. That if that wasn't targeting, I don't know what it is.
I would completely agree.
If you want to defend that, then I'm leaving.
I'm not going to defend it. I do believe that was targeting. Certainly, if you're going to call it targeting against that Nebraska game, you've got to call it in the Georgia game. But that's a whole different ball game. I understand. We're going to take a deep breath here because, you know, we're not going to play Georgia yet.
I would love to play Georgia again. I would love to get.
You might put a helmet on.
I want to see Ohio State play Georgia again. I want to see them play Oregon again. And I just am looking forward. What is it? November 30th? Is that the day?
I think so. 25 days from right now. I know that.
I want Ohio State. I want Ryan to hang 100 on them.
I will say, the good news for Ohio State is that Indiana game, I don't think nobody can sleep on that. It's a top 10 game now coming to the shoe. I mean, you cannot ignore that game. You cannot ignore Indiana. When you look at that Michigan game, it matters more than the rest of the season combined, in which everybody knows what's coming in the shoe. I know there are times when the Michigan can sneak up and get the Buckeyes. They're not sneaking up. They're not. Ohio State, I think, would trade the next 3 games to make sure they beat that team up north.
You know what I love the most about Ryan Day today? He didn't want to talk about how good they were against Penn State. He was all he wanted to talk about was Purdue.
He was begging us to ask him Purdue questions.
Any questions you asked him, it went to Purdue, and I love that about him. And let me tell you why. Urban Meyer is a national championship coach, yes? He's won 3 national titles. When he was at Ohio State, Urban Meyer lost to Purdue. Urban Meyer lost to Iowa. Urban Meyer lost twice to Michigan State. And you never know. It can happen. It can happen. And let me tell you something, folks. Parity is very much alive.
Well, you see that with the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, in modern college football, parity is very much alive. It is very much alive. And I know you don't want to hear it, but Ohio State is not the only program that's getting people out of the portal and is paying people to play college football.
You're getting paid?
Not to play college football, but to come here and tell it like it should be and tell it like it is. And what it is if this football team runs the table, they will probably be number 1 when they beat Oregon in the Big Ten title.
And I think I think they will be. I think tonight confirms that if they win out, they will be the number 1 team on Selection Sunday in December, which is a month from now, pretty much. And not only is that important, but then you're talking about, 1, you get the bye, which is huge. You're talking about you get maybe the 12 seed, the 5 seed. That's a great matchup there for anybody, really. I just think that Ohio State, after everything they've been through in the last month, it's remarkable to see that here we sit with the first rankings coming out, and the only blemish they have is a 1-point loss to the number 1 team on the road by 1 second, and the committee recognized that. And now, if they continue to play like this, they will get their opportunity with revenge at Oregon.
Here's what I don't like, though. Here's what I don't like. If the season was to end now, and Ohio State is number 2 in the country, they're going to have to not get that reward because they're not going to be the conference champions. But I think that's crazy.
But I understand your argument there. But there's no world where that matters for Ohio State this year, which is a good thing.
No, it matters because you're going to have to play an extra game.
No,
you got to play 4 versus 3.
Listen, but they're either going to beat Oregon or they're going to lose to Oregon. They're either going to finish out as the 1 seed or end up with 2 losses. That's the only.
I understand that,
but in a different
when
yes.
I saw that, I don't like that. I think if you're number 2, you get a bye. I think the top 4 should get a bye.
I'll say this. If there was a world where Ohio State and Oregon didn't play this year and they met in Indy as undefeated teams, the loser of that team should not be penalized.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Now, this year for Ohio State, it works out fine. But in the future, it is kind of silly to think that a BYU team is going to get a bye, but a Buckeye team or anybody would not in that scenario.
There needs to be common sense, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, with that...
Are we talking about football or life?
All this. Think about this. They released the first college football playoff ranking on Election Day. What are they thinking? Why would you do that on Election Day? Am I wrong?
I mean, you're not wrong. I will say it was very interesting. We had the polls closing in the East. We had the top 25. There was so much going on. We had 2 TVs. We had the volumes on both.
How much TV coverage are they getting tonight with this?
This right here, 10 TV Plus.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's where that's where the good coverage happens, though, Don.
It's the election. Who thought, hey, we're going to release it on November, what is it, 5th? Yeah. Didn't someone say, hey, it's Election Day? Why would you do that? I don't understand.
Well, you know why they did it, Dom, is you got my voice going real high. I don't think it's ever been that high before.
Because you want to drive 55.
I'm going to drive 55. When you think about election night, there is so much, discussion and a lot going on in the world. So they only added to it. They said, what if we got the college football fans riled up? But Twitter wasn't busy enough tonight. Let's get everybody riled up, everybody arguing.
Makes no sense, and you know it. In any event, we digress. He's Adam King.
Real quick, it was targeting against Georgia?
He's Adam King, and I'm Dom Tiberi, and he can't drive 55.
55!